Don't need the council.
I know.
Probably get.
I know.
To allow us to do that. I was in the field.
So I'm gonna put it to see on the visit. Okay?
Otherwise, it would be in your reports.
We should probably ask
Yeah.
about that. I gotta go get permission. Oh, this is fun. You had 3 meetings.
Good evening. Welcome to the City of Shelbyville's Mayor and City Council regular City Council meeting. We want to ask our police officer tonight to call us to order, please.
All rise. The June 13th, 2023 Thursday meeting of the Shelbyville City Council is about to commence. Please silence all cell phones and noise-making devices. We ask that you remain standing for the invocation and pledge of allegiance. At the conclusion of tonight's meeting, this building will return to a secure building. We ask that if you have any business to conduct following this meeting, to do so within 5 minutes and depart the building forthwith.
Thank you. All right, we'll ask Mike Alsop, our Parks and Recreation Director, to give us our invocation tonight. Mike?
Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this evening, for the beautiful day you've given us, and just the many opportunities you give us to serve you and to serve the people here in this community. I do pray that you'd give our council and mayor wisdom as they deliberate the business of the city this evening. And Lord, we just pray that all that we do bring you glory, and I pray this in Jesus' name.
Thank you, Mike. Could you join me in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You may be seated. Thank you. All right, we're gonna get a roll call in just a moment, but I wanted to acknowledge Mike Alsop. This is Mike's last meeting with us. He's been our Parks and Recreation Director for how many years now, Mike?
9 years.
Okay, and he has decided to retire, and we can't argue with that situation. And he has been a wonderful Parks and Recreation Director, has run a really, the Parks and Recreation area is always, when I go out there are people there, they're enjoying the recreation and all the different things, and Mike has kept it all in order, and we just appreciate everything you've done, Mike. I know we're going to have a retirement thing for you, but I wanted in a public meeting to acknowledge all that we really feel like you've done a great job. Bleach.
Well, I really hadn't prepared anything, but it is a pleasure to serve the public, see our guests come into the rec center and see the difference that we make in their lives each day. And it's, you all provide the funding for the staff and maintenance and everything of the facilities. The parks are wonderful, and the staff that we work with out there is just great. It's, I just get to lead a bit. We've got a staff that just takes care of them. So, it's a privilege and a pleasure to serve alongside you all and the staff, administration, the other directors and departments. So thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Mike. All right, Ms. Lisa, I'll ask you for a roll call, please.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Councilmember Christie.
Here.
Councilmember Ewing. Present. Councilmember Feldhouse.
Here.
Councilmember Hale.
Here.
Councilmember Isaacs. Here. Councilmember Turnbow.
Here.
Do have a quorum. All members are present.
All right, thank you for that. Before we adopt the agenda, we've got a few things to change on the agenda tonight. On the consent agenda, items small a under the large A, small a and C, lowercase, both of those studies are minutes are not available tonight, so we're going to defer those to the next meeting. I will need a motion for that, and also we're going to add a business item, 13C, and our city manager will give us a statement there about an activity in our city, and he'll read that to us later. So I'll need a motion to adopt the agenda as amended by those three items.
Motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? All right, now that we have amended the agenda, I will need a motion to adopt it as amended.
No move.
Do I have a second? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right. All right, public comments. Miss Lisa, do you have any?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I do. Two this afternoon signed up. Joanne Bassel. Ms. Bassel.
Good evening.
Good evening.
As you know, you have 3 minutes and the timer will start when you start speaking.
All right, awesome. Thanks so much, everybody. I know you guys are probably tired of seeing me, but I'm going to keep coming out for things that are important to me and things that I think are important to the city. When I spoke last week, I kind of talked about all of the reasons why I didn't think that this amendment to ordinance 10-13 was the right thing for our city, kind of based on, I guess, my morals, I would say, and looking at it at the point of view that every human being that lives in this community has a right to exist in the way that they are able to exist in that moment. Most of us, as we know, are closer to homelessness than we are to being wealthy. But today I wanted to just bring up some questions that I had about this ordinance change, because frankly, the transparency on this ordinance has been not good. I have a lot of questions and concerns about what types of conversations may have gone into the decision leading up to this ordinance change. The first thing being, what is the enforcement method going to be? How are we going to approach these people, and what's going to be the punishment or the fine or the citation? That has not been disclosed to anybody. And I feel like if you're going to put through an ordinance where you're going to be having police interact with a person, it's important to know what that interaction is going to entail. If there is a punitive component, including enforcement, has the city calculated the additional cost to the city and to the taxpayers of Shelbyville? If there's going to be police interactions more with the homeless population, have we considered what the additional cost of the police budget is going to be to the court? All of these things taxpayers are paying for, and there's been no communication or discussion about what those costs may be if this ordinance is amended. And then the other one is, I just really wanted to know what other options did the city take into consideration? Did you guys talk about anything before just jumping headfirst into a let's ban a person for just existing and trying to sleep? Did you guys think about the fact that the state already has a camping ban in place? We actually have the most punitive camping ban in the country in the state of Tennessee. That already exists. So why do we need to tack another layer on for the city of Shelbyville? So I just really think it's important to point out the fact that you guys are trying to put through this ordinance without providing any of this information to the residents of Shelbyville. And I think it's important that if things are going to change, that the city residents have transparency on that. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. The next person.
The next person is Abe Zimmerman. Mr. Zimmerman. As I stated before to Ms. Bassel, you have 3 minutes. The timer will start when you start to speak.
Good evening.
Well, good evening, Mayor Carroll, city council members, and residents. Grace and peace be with you. I am Reverend Abe Zimmerman. I've had the pleasure of serving Shelbyville First United Methodist Church these past 2 years. And I come tonight to urge you to reject the proposed amendment to Shelbyville Municipal Code 10-213. And so I come before you and I'm going to mention Matthew chapter 25, where Jesus implores us to care for the marginalized through acts of mercy and compassion, emphasizing that our treatment of the sick, the thirsty, the displaced reflects our treatment of Christ himself. As he says this to us, truly I tell you, whatever you did for one of the least of these brothers and sisters of mine, you did for me. And so with this sacred mandate in mind, I express deep concern over this anti-homeless amendment. I firmly believe that punitive measures are not the solution. I hope we can look and try to find other ways. I believe there are going to be counterproductive consequences. Criminalizing homelessness through fines worsens the situation. It disrupts lives. It perpetuates this situation. It fails to address root causes. Rather than enhancing safety, I believe it's going to push individuals further into the margins, hindering their ability to find stability and healing. Secondly, I think it's going to undermine their human dignity. Every person, regardless of their circumstances, possesses inherent worth. Rest and sleep are fundamental human needs. Punishing those seeking refuge outdoors undermines their dignity. And so therefore, council members, I implore you to vote against this. I think we can work together and find other creative solutions. And yeah, I guess I just hope we can find another way tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Lisa, do we have anyone else?
No, Mr. Mayor, that's all I had signed up for tonight.
Okay, thank you for your comments. All right, our next item on our agenda is the city manager report. We'll call on Scott Collins, our city manager, who will give us his report.
Thank you, Mayor. We had a very productive meeting with officials from MTSU as they begin to move forward on the aerospace campus. And there's still some discussion about federal funds that's going to be coming to the city of Shelbyville and or MTSU. We have not received official notification or any detailed grant process at this time, but we are listed in the budget to be in line for $6.7 million. MTSU also has received a grant through the same process in excess of $2.5 million. So there's going to be a good investment in the Shelbyville Municipal Airport in the near future. Two more items. Before we meet again, we will be meeting in study session, but work will start significantly on the small business support grant that we're working through from the Tennessee Department of Economic and Community Development. This grant has 4 sections. The Omni-Channel course, which is a comprehensive program designed to empower retail professionals with a deep understanding of the modern retailing in the digital era. And also business modernization course, holiday trends and outlook course, and then the property owner training and toolkit. We will be putting out a lot of information both through social media, newspaper, and other venues to let every small business within the city of Shelbyville. Some people are under the misconception that this is limited to the Squire, but any and all businesses within the city of Shelbyville will be able to take advantage of this opportunity. And last, I would like to report, get ready for another ribbon cut. We are proud to announce through the work of the economic development team made up of city employees that Borough Bullets has purchased the property. They are remodeling and hopes to host a ribbon cutting for the mayor and city council and city and staff toward the end of June. They have taken the building that was in very poor condition and totally remodeling it and getting ready to start production, hopefully as early as July. Mayor, that's all I have to report at this time.
Could you repeat the name of the place and location?
Burrow Bullets. The location, Cheat Oak, you was critical in locking this down. When they tried to work on one property and the deal fell through, and Cheat Oak helped to work through it. Can you please share with us the location?
Was the Jensen Pencil Company on West Jackson, so somewhere that, I got a lot of square footage, it just needs some DLC.
It's a very old building out there.
So they got to update the infrastructure, and they're hoping to have several dozen employees, coming pretty quick, so.
Thank you, Chief. Appreciate your help. Thank you, Scott, for that report. Any other questions or comments?
You don't have to say that.
Okay. All right, we'll move to the consent agenda. All right, all items in this portion of the agenda are considered to be routine and non-controversial by the council and may be approved by one motion. However, a council member may request that an item be removed for separate consideration. Capital A, approval of the city council minutes of the following, and the only one that we have, two of them were deferred. B, regular meeting of May the 9th, 2024. All right, capital B, accept all monthly reports for the month of May. C, accept the treasurer's report for the month of April. D, approval of accounts payable for the month of May. E, authorize to organize a special census committee and initiate the process for a special census for the city of Shelbyville. F, approve the planning services proposal for Griggs and Maloney for the services of Kevin Chastain until a new planning director has been employed. G, approve and authorize the mayor and city attorney to sign the change order number 2, final, with Hawkins and Price on the North Britton Street Drainage Project in the amount of $75,919.35. Does anyone wish to remove an item? Do I have a motion to approve as read? Do I have a second?
Second.
Need a roll call, Lisa?
Yes, sir. Councilmember Feldhouse,
Yes.
Councilmember Ewing,
Yes.
Councilmember Hale,
Yes.
Councilmember Christie,
Yes.
Councilmember Isaacs,
Yes.
Councilmember Turnbow.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, and we'll close the stated meeting and open for public hearings at this time. Public hearings. An ordinance to amend the city code of ordinances, Title I, Administration, Officers, and Personnel, Chapter 14, Purchasing Department, Purchasing Procedures to repeal any and all ordinances in conflict herewith and providing for an effective date. Does anyone wish to speak for or against that before we get that motion? Everybody know what we're talking about there? Changing the numbers on the bidding process and things like that? Isn't that correct?
Yes.
Okay, I will need a motion to amend the, I'm sorry.
Public hearing.
Okay, all right, yeah, we don't look both ones right now, right? Thank you, Scott. Okay, no one has anything to say for or against that, okay, we'll move on to ordinance, the next ordinance, an ordinance to amend the city code of ordinances, Title 10, Offenses, Miscellaneous, Chapter 2, Enumerated, Section 213, Watering, to repeal any and all ordinance in conflict herewith and providing for an effective date. That's what we have public comments on. Anyone have anything to say for or against that on council? Okay. Next public hearing is an ordinance to amend the adopted budget ordinance as amended of the city of Shelbyville, Tennessee, various funds for the fiscal year 2023, 2024, the period ending on June 30th, 2024. Anyone have anything to say for or against that? Okay. The last one under that is an ordinance of the city of Shelbyville, Tennessee, to approve the rezoning of 3.38 acres owned by Cooper's Steel Fabricators Incorporated, located on the north side of Eagle Boulevard, west of Eaton Drive, and shown on Exhibit A, final plat, below from residential 2, R2, low, medium density residential district, to industrial I2, general industrial district, and repealing any ordinance or portion of ordinance in conflict therewith. Have anything to say for or against that? Okay, at this time, I'll close the public hearing and reopen the stated meeting. All right, consideration of a motion to allow the city attorney to read captions only on ordinances and resolutions. I need a motion. All right, I need a second. All in favor, say aye. Great, Ginger, go.
Took me by surprise.
Mhm.
Your first ordinance is an ordinance to amend the City Code of Ordinances, Title I, Administration, Officers and Personnel, Chapter 14, Purchasing Department, Purchasing Procedures, and to repeal any and all ordinances in conflict herewith and providing for an effective date.
Okay, you'll have a motion on that.
I'd like to make a motion on that and adjust the $50,000 number to 30,000 instead, leaving the rest of the recommendations the same.
Okay.
Second.
Second?
Yep.
Okay. All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion on that? Okay. It wasn't 15, we're going to 50 on that bid processing thing, but now we're at 30. The motion is at 30,000. To cap that. All right?
And
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, I was just going to clarify the other changes that you wish to have.
The state is saying like $5,000 for the stays.
But that's the only change, is the 30,000.
Okay. All right, do we have any more discussion? All right. Laura?
The chart that you all were given a couple of weeks ago, are you saying go with that entire line?
No,
Because it affects what department directors have.
no.
Taxes.
These things for bidding goes from 15 to 30,000 instead of 50. basically.
What about the up to,
5,000 with the
I
other.
said leave the rest of it the same.
He said to leave everything the
So
same.
like-
So I
like
was
your
clarifying.
recommendation.
Like the recommendation and the purchasing.
So don't be that to change the ordinance in front of you.
1,500 going to 15,000, I mean 5,000.
About that.
yes.
Yeah. Leave that the same, like you're recommending.
Okay. All right, everybody clear on that before we've got a motion and a second? The only change is going to 30,000 instead of 15,000 where we are now, right?
Correct.
Okay.
That's not what I heard.
I'm sorry?
I thought instead of 50,000 to 30,000, but I thought I heard from 1,500 to 5,000.
Correct.
That's
That's
in your ordinance.
That's the motion.
Yes.
His motion is to pass this ordinance as it is written, except for one change, and that would be, instead of 50, it'd be 30.
Is that okay? I've got something Scott's showing me. We had that at our last meeting.
I said. He said.
Okay. Are we clear? Make sure we're clear before we vote.
So this means, as it reads,
Right.
be passed, except for one item. And that means your bidding, competitive bid threshold would increase from 15,000 to 30,000 instead of 15,000 to 50,000 as it's written in the ordinance and it's been passed already on first reading.
This nineteen.
Okay, so that's what the motion was.
Okay, I need.
Okay, the current policy, I'm sorry, go ahead. Come on, Lori.
Okay,
You can tell us more than I can.
I just need
You start
clarity.
purchasing agent.
I'm the one who has
Lori
to
said,
enforce it, so,
okay?
when we met in March, or the April 2nd study session, I had a whole list. It changed public advertisement, so you're saying all that can change. Public advertisement can be updated, the surplus description that I gave you all can be changed, that can be changed. Okay, so in this chart that we talked about last time, where the department directors have up to $5,000 without a quote, you're saying yes to that or no to that?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay,
To that.
Yeah.
that's not how we're hearing it.
Right, because it sounded like there was no change from what we currently have in
No,
effect.
I'm saying,
That's
nothing
the way
was
it sounded.
changed with this ordinance.
That's the way
This
it
is what
sounded.
you're passing.
Yeah.
It's already been passed on first reading.
Okay.
So everything that you've been talking about has already been passed on first reading, including a $50,000 bid threshold. What he's saying, he wants to pass it on second reading tonight, but make one change
Yes.
and reduce it from 50 to 30.
Okay,
So everything else that you have in here will pass.
I think there needs to be 3 things that change. then.
Okay,
The department director's, authority, you're saying can be 5,000.
that's what's in the ordinance.
As always.
And then you're saying that 2 quotes is 5 to 20.
Two quotes required, okay, all right.
And 3 quotes would be 20, it was 20 to 50, so I've got to get my scale right.
The third one.
So I think what you're looking at is the line below that blue line. You have one of these, Ginger, but it's 30,000 was the bid threshold. Department directors would have discretion 4,000 or less if you go by this scale. And then 2 quotes, 4,000 to 12,000, 3 quotes, 12,000 to 30.
Great.
Okay. So I think it's more than one change is what I'm
Well,
hearing.
that was my concern, is that there might be, it might trigger something in here that needs to be lowered.
Mhm.
I mean, we would love to have 5,000 and we could do to scale by that, but like I said,
You got about that.
we want to do what you want us to do. If we go with 30, it's 4,000 according to this chart that I gave y'all last week.
Is that,
necessarily go by your
That's-
chart, you just want to make one change.
All right, looks like they're confusing. We're gonna ask Scott, to
Okay,
Lori, I need to ask
we
you a
will make sure
question.
before we take a vote on it.
Your chart is not a state mandate, is it? That's just what,
well,
or
the,
is it listed like that in the state law?
no, where the mandate comes in is 40,000 or 40% of the bid threshold or amount set by council. It either has to be set by council or be 40% by TCA
Okay,
for my 3 quotes.
okay.
But my understanding on this, by going on the chart, the director's discretion would be 5,000 or less. 2 quotes required would be over 5, but less than 20. 3 quotes, 20,000 to 30,000. Then the bid threshold would be 30,000. And then the 10% allowance for purchases 5,000 or less, local preference. And then 5%, but less than 30,000.
So we would be changing the 3 quote range, is what that boils
Yes.
down to.
All you do is change the number 50,000 to 30,000,
Yeah.
everywhere in that chart.
Yeah, I just,
Everything else stays the same.
that,
Yeah.
so it's 2 things.
Right, so Lori, that takes care of what you were saying, had a 40%. You said set by council or 40%.
Well, set by
Set
council.
by council.
That's what I was
If
That's
you
what I'm
call this
asking.
out in this reading tonight, we'll be fine.
Okay.
Okay. Am I totally clear? Or is it clear? All right,
So
okay.
Lisa, read that. Scott or Lisa read that back.
Okay.
Okay, so what you're changing is the bid threshold to 30,000. 20,000 or more, but less than 30,000 would require 3 quotes. Then over 5,000 but less than 20,000 requires 2 quotes, and 5,000 or less is at the director's discretion. Everybody got that?
Now, Mr. Feldhouse, is that what you want to change your motion to?
That's exactly, that's fine.
And Mr. Turnbow, you're good with that?
Yeah.
And you're accepting that? Okay.
All right.
Anybody else good with it? Okay. All right, we've got a motion and a second. We've had discussion, and we're ready for a roll call vote, right?
Yes, sir.
All right, let's do a roll call, please.
Councilmember Isaacs?
Yes.
Councilmember Christie?
Yes.
Councilmember Hale?
Yes.
Councilmember Ewing?
Yes.
Councilmember Feldhouse?
Yes.
And Councilmember Turnbow.
Yes.
Thank y'all.
Thank you. All right. An ordinance to amend, this is B, the ordinance to amend, well, it's your read.
I was gonna say,
Okay. Yeah,
get with it, Ginger.
I'm ready.
An ordinance to amend the City Code of Ordinances, Title 10 Offenses, Miscellaneous, Chapter 2, enumerated Section 213 Watering, to repeal any and all ordinances in conflict herewith and providing for an effective date.
All right. Do I have a motion on that?
Motion to approve.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. I have a motion and a second. Now discussion.
Hey y'all, I just want to say, like my great grandmother used to say, it didn't matter where you lived as long as you took care of it. That was your home. People in Shelbyville have all sorts of homes. They live in big houses, they live in apartments. Some people sleep on their friends' couches. Some people sleep in their cars. And some people sleep in their tents in the woods. And all their homes matter. And just because some people don't agree with it doesn't mean that they're in the wrong. That is still their home. No one wants to be homeless. Times are really tough right now. And there's nowhere for these folks to go. We don't have a homeless shelter. We don't have affordable housing. We must have empathy and love for our neighbors. So I really hope y'all vote no tonight. Thanks.
Thank you, Stephanie. Anyone else have a discussion item or a comment?
I think the biggest key to this whole ordinance is that it's misinterpreted with the word homeless and forceful actions from our police department and so on, making changes to how we normally pretty much enacted on things of this nature, but it has nothing to do with homeless per se. And that's what needs to be stressed so much.
Do we have, I understand exactly what you're talking about. It doesn't have that language in it. Do we have that ordinance or that amendment to the ordinance that we can read?
Oh, I'm sorry.
You want to read it, Lisa, please? Okay, you got it.
It's
Ginger's
just
gonna read it.
It's just adding this one sentence. It shall be unlawful for any person to camp and store personal property on any local, state, or federal public property without express written consent from the property owner. That's all that is.
Yeah,
That's what
It doesn't say anything about the word homeless and those kind of things like that, like you're correct in that. Anybody else have comments?
I got one comment because I had some questions of
Okay.
the city attorney for Ms. Vassal's transparency in our decision process. She did bring up to me before the meeting about whether this state law that was passed recently involved, local municipal properties. We did look that up. It is only state properties. It has nothing to do, the state law is a felony, not a misdemeanor, which is what, in our situation, we would be looking at it much more like a traffic ticket type
It's
situation.
not a misdemeanor even, yeah.
Well, not,
It's city,
not
it's just a city violation.
a city violation, not a misdemeanor. Okay,
And I can
that's
explain,
even lower level. But
I can explain that.
and in my conversation with the police chief and the city attorney before the meeting, we did discuss how it's handled. the police department currently has a very good handle on the homelessness situation. They're not arresting people. And there are situations where they can arrest them for trespassing and that kind of thing, and they would have to go to jail and criminalize it. This law basically gives them the opportunity to issue a warning ticket, or at the worst case, a $50 ticket. It would have to come before this council if we were really gonna pursue it all the way to civil action and criminal court and that kind of thing, as it does with any other situation when we have a dilapidated house that needs removal and has to come back to here. So it's a very long process to actually criminalize it. It gives another tool in their toolbox, try to help move some people along if they need the extra push. And I certainly sympathize with somebody who is temporarily homeless and that kind of thing that needs sleep. I may find myself in that situation too, where I have to sleep on the car, he'll sleep in the car someday and looking for something and with some place to park it to sleep. But I think our police department does have some discretion with the city currently and how they're handling it. And so I just would like to give that as part of the toolbox and not just relying only on state law to enforce anything on public property.
Okay. Ginger, would you read one more time
Sure.
that one sentence with adding to that order?
I'll be happy to, Mayor, and I can talk about the state.
Okay.
It shall be unlawful for any person to camp and store personal property on any local, state, or federal public property without express written consent from the property owner. The state actually has two laws. One came about in 2012, and it has more to do with the rights of way. You can't basically hang out, can't ride on the right of way or under a bridge. That's been there for a while. That has really more to do, a lot to do with public safety.
Wow.
And then the more recent law came about and clarified, and that one is not a felony. That's a difference with that one. The state law on camping that has made, I guess, so much news in the past year or so is as Henry said, is a Class C felony. It could be extensive jail time. I think it's 6 years, maybe. I'm not sure, Chief. It is designed only on state property, and it is certain times of the day. It's really overnight. It's to prevent people from basically sleeping somewhere and leaving their personal property. And it gives a mechanism to remove the property from state grounds. Now, of course, the state also can designate certain parts of its state property. Obviously, they've got parks and camps and things like that. That law doesn't apply there. So technically, right now, what your police officers could do if there's state property within our jurisdiction, they could arrest someone for that. But it'd have to be on state property. So that could potentially be around the river. But that's extensively high. The damages are high. The jail time is significant for that. As a civil ordinance, and that's what this would be, it's a civil violation of the Shelbyville Municipal Code if you pass this tonight. The police write them a ticket like they do for any violation of your municipal code. As you've heard me state before, there was a very famous case out of Chattanooga. It has limited what you can fine someone for a municipal violation. We do not have concurrent general sessions jurisdiction in the city of Shelbyville. We do not have an elected judge. So our judge can only fine someone up to $50 for any violation, and there's no jail time involved in that. So that is the limit of what the police would be able to do if they use this particular, if you pass this and the police have that as an opportunity, another tool you say in their toolkit to clean up. As you all know, I think this came about because of encampments that were along the banks of the river that I believe the council had received numerous complaints about from the public, and the picture that presented. So That is what this would do. This does not go any higher than that. It's a $50 per day, per incident, maximum fee that could be, if you want to say fine, that could be applied to people, and nobody's going to jail.
Okay. All right, we discussed that and we got a
You got
motion
questions, Mayor?
and we got a second, right?
Yes.
All right, to amend the city code of ordinances. All right, we've had discussion on it.
I do have a question, one more. When it says without written consent of the property owner, this is not permissible,
Mhm.
where does that consent? Is that a person coming to the city? Or the property owner?
This would just be local, state, or federal public property. Obviously, that's only within our jurisdiction. So if this covers, I think it was written this way, obviously, if the city of Shelbyville had a place that we allowed people to camp, we could give them property, the right to do that. But also the state or federal government, they could do that on their own property, if they had property within our jurisdiction. But those are the only three property owners. Or Bedford County could do the same. If
But
Bedford
you're
County
saying
owned
the city
property.
does not have property available for them to do that?
I don't think we do. I don't think we do.
Any other clarification? Okay, so we got a motion and a second to amend the city code of ordinances to add this one sentence there. Time for a roll call vote unless there's more discussion. Any more? Okay, let's have a roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Ewing,
Yes.
Councilmember Hale,
Yes.
Councilmember Christie,
Yes.
Councilmember Isaacs,
No.
Councilmember Turnbow,
Yes.
Councilmember Feldhouse.
Yes.
Motion passes, ordinance passes on second reading, 5 yeses, 1 no.
Thank you. Ginger?
Let's see, your next ordinance. An ordinance to amend the adopted budget ordinance as amended of the city of Shelbyville, Tennessee, various funds for the fiscal year 2023, 2024, the period ending June 30th, 2024.
Okay, do I have a motion to adopt that?
Mr. Mayor, if I
I'm sorry?
could,
Yes.
I'm sorry. This is the ordinance that we talked about. We had it on here as a placeholder
Mhm.
in case any amendments came up before we were ready for the final budget amendments, which will be presented to you at the final budget hearings on the 25th of this month.
Right.
So we don't have any amendments for this budget, so if y'all will just table it indefinitely, then we can move on. So we just need a motion to table that ordinance indefinitely.
Okay, do I have a motion to table that indefinitely?
So moved.
All right, do I have a second?
Second.
All right, any more discussion on that? If not, let's have a roll call vote.
Councilmember Christie,
Yes.
Councilmember Hale,
Yes.
Councilmember Ewing,
Yes.
Councilmember Feldhouse,
Yes.
Councilmember Turnbow,
Yes.
Councilmember Isaacs.
Yes.
Thank y'all.
Thank you.
D is an ordinance of the city of Shelbyville, Tennessee to approve the rezoning of 3.38 plus or minus acres owned by Cooper Steel Fabricators Incorporated, located on the north side of Eagle Boulevard, west of Eden Drive, and shown as Exhibit A final plat below from residential 2, which is a low, medium density residential district, to industrial 2, a general industrial district, and repealing any ordinance or portion of ordinance in conflict therewith.
Okay, do I have a motion on that to approve the rezoning?
Motion?
All right, do I have a second? Okay, all right, any discussion on that? Everybody know where that property is and what we're doing? All right, if no discussion, let's have a roll call, please.
Councilmember Hale,
Yes.
Councilmember Christie,
Yes.
Councilmember Isaacs,
Yes.
Councilmember Turnbow,
Yes.
Councilmember Feldhouse,
Yes.
Councilmember Ewing.
Yes.
Approved.
Okay, thank you. New business, and we'll ask Kendra to read that. Hey,
You have one ordinance on first reading, and it is an ordinance of the city of Shelbyville, Tennessee, to approve the rezoning of 2.5 plus or minus acres owned by Robert and Dana Collins, located on the east side of South Cannon Boulevard, and referred to as tax map 89I, Group F, Parcel 1, from residential 1 low density residential district to commercial 2, general commercial, and repealing any ordinance or portion of ordinance in conflict therewith.
Okay. Do I have a motion on that ordinance of rezoning that 2.5 acres?
Brandon, good with that, Tom?
Yes.
Tom, you want to come up? There's a question before we get, do we need to get the motion
Get the
first?
motion and.
First, okay.
Hang on, Tom, you're all right.
You ain't get.
Hold on.
Do I get a motion?
Motion is second, please.
Do I have a motion to rezone it?
So moved.
All right, do I have a second?
Second.
All right, now, there's discussion, and here's Tom, and we can ask him anything we want to.
Well, good evening, everybody. So this property is 721 South Cannon Boulevard. And let's see, 2.5 acres. The applicant is requesting a rezoning from R1 to C2, general commercial. And in this iteration of the slide, I made sure I actually put the location. You can see the where it is. It's just north of Southside Elementary School. The property, as you can see on the right-hand side, abuts C2, and it does meet our comprehensive plan and future land use map for this type of zoning. There was one letter of opposition.
Right.
And if you notice on the future land use map, you see that blue area. So this type of zoning is consistent with it. One of the things I'd like to point out, though, is that it is connected to the type of service. So Shelbyville Power, in their sewer ordinance, requires a 6-inch sewer line, and this one only had 4. So John Freeman worked with Chad and Dana Collins to create a restrictive covenant for it. That was part of it. So in the May 23rd Planning Commission meeting, Planning Commission did recommend to the City Council this rezoning request be removed.
Any questions for Tom? Okay.
Do sell it, try to sell it.
Yes, they saw that their commercial activity is hot right now, and
Give it a shot.
yes.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
My only question is like the covenant, we can rezone the property, but how do we know that because we've rezoned it, that the 4-inch sewer thing will be listed on the deed of the property?
And that's, it was actually recorded with property.
Right.
So and that was the condition that Shelbyville Power had, was they wanted to make sure that whoever purchased it would understand that. And since the site is vacant, any type of redevelopment will require planning commission review. And so it'll go before pre-planning committee, and that's where they'll, that will be known that it's a 4-inch line. And it doesn't restrict all types of commercial use, but it does restrict that you can't have restaurant use without upgrading that sewer line. So most commercial businesses can go on there as well.
Good question. Good question. Any other question? Okay, thank you, Tom. All right, we've had a motion and a second, and if there's no more discussion, let's have a roll call vote.
Councilmember Turnbull?
Yes.
Councilmember Feldhouse?
Yes.
Councilmember Ewing?
Yes.
Councilmember Hale?
Yes.
Councilmember Christie?
Yes.
Councilmember Isaacs?
Yes. Thank you.
Okay, resolution, please.
Your first resolution of the City Council of Shelbyville, Tennessee is authorizing an official delegation to the 2024 Annual Conference of the Tennessee Municipal League and providing for the attendance and expenditures of that delegation.
Hey, do I have a motion to send that delegation to that conference?
So moved.
All right, do I have a second? Okay, do we have any discussion? All right, let's have a roll call.
Councilmember Ewing?
Yes.
Councilmember Hale?
Yes.
Councilmember Christie?
Yes.
Councilmember Isaacs?
Yes.
Councilmember Turnbow?
Yes.
Councilmember Feldhouse?
Yeah.
Approved.
Your second resolution of the City of Shelbyville, Tennessee is authorizing the application for a multimodal transportation access program grant, Phase 2, between the State of Tennessee Department of Transportation and the City of Shelbyville for the construction of a multi-use path or sidewalks in the City of Shelbyville.
Okay, we have a motion for us to apply for that grant, that multimodal grant.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, any discussion on that?
So we're 10% of that economic impact of that $1.2 million, right?
Yeah, it's a 10%,
Yeah, 10%.
yeah.
Is that on Madison Street, Tom? Is that phase 2 on
Yes,
that?
it is phase 2.
Phase 2.
This is, we had applied for it last year and we did not get phase 2. So this is the second time we're applying for phase 2. So, the figures we left in there, they may change slightly, but we don't have a final figure on it, but it may change slightly, but am I talking right, Buck? Yeah.
This is listed as 5%.
No, I'm sorry, it's 5%.
Depending on the economic in that area, what it is, it could be 5 or 10.
Okay.
It could be what?
5 or 10.
It could be 5 or 10%?
Yes, because depending on the economic area of that, which they'll decide on, if it's a low economic area, it'll be 5. If it's a normal economic area, it'll be 10, but no more than 10.
Then this resolution needs to be.
Will, am I correct in that?
The resolution reads 5%.
Yes.
Glad you brought that up.
Can we make that in the motion, the resolution to change the
Yeah,
5% the language in that?
amend the resolution to,
Okay.
I had it correct in the staff summary, I did not change the resolution, I guess.
Okay, so that
Here.
resolution for that grant and Ginger, the language, all will need to change, let us know.
Number 2, that the city's portion of this grant will be equal to between 5 or 10, up to 10% of the total amount of the project. Okay.
And please keep in mind, this is authorization to apply. No guarantee. This is in response to the notice of intent to apply.
Yeah.
We did make that cut.
And then Lisa, just with 90 to 95% of total funding to be provided by the Tennessee Department of Transportation. Just
Okay.
those two little small changes there, like that.
Okay.
Just so you're clear.
I got it, yeah, I got it.
All right, so the motion, in that motion, do we need to make any change in that since you?
I think Mr. Christie made the motion,
Yes.
if he would accept that.
I would.
Amendment.
From 5, no more than 10%.
Was it Bobby?
It was Gary.
Was it Gary? Okay.
Gary,
Gary
okay
did
with
second, okay?
Okay.
Is that okay with you, Mr. Page?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, any other discussion on that? All right, let's have a roll call. Thank you, Bud, for clarifying that.
Councilmember Feldhouse,
Yes.
Councilmember Dewey,
Yes.
Councilmember Hale,
Yes.
Councilmember Christie,
Yes.
Councilmember Isaacs. Yes. Councilmember Turbo.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, please, Ginger, Steve.
Your last resolution is a resolution amending the City of Shelbyville, Tennessee Stormwater Management Manual.
Okay, and I'll need a motion on that. How many pages was it, Lisa?
A lot.
200 and,
270. I put in the email that I sent y'all out, because I sent everybody a copy of it, and I put that I didn't put it in your packet, because I didn't want it to weigh your packet down. And I thought it was 52 pages, but when I looked at it again, it was actually 270, so.
Brian Dickey's been working on that.
He's worked hard.
He's done a phenomenal job.
But,
Will.
and, he's given public meetings on it, I think, and all kinds of different things like that, so, just trying to meet that requirement.
We're not required to read it and you give us a task. You're a task, they got a task in them.
Everything will be next Friday.
All right, so I'll need a motion, on amending that's, our manual, stormwater manual,
Motion to approve.
okay? Second?
Second.
All right, any other discussion? Any other discussion? Okay, roll call.
Councilmember Christie.
Yes.
Councilmember Isaacs.
Yes.
Councilmember Turnbow.
Yes.
Councilmember Feldhouse.
Yes.
Councilmember Ewing.
Yes.
Councilmember Hale.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ginger, for reading those things for us. Business items. All right, consideration of a motion to approve a local tourism grant to the Calvin Cannon, to the Calvin Cannon, for the Southern Summer Chili Days to be held on July the 12th and 13th, 2024. This will be paid for, or paid from, the fiscal year 24 hotel motel budget appropriated for tourism. And that's, how many states are gonna be represented? 40? Something like that?
I'm looking for my paper.
Maybe 15 states.
I can't remember that.
A whole lot of folks, yeah.
40 chili cooks from 15 different states.
The Calvin Cannon, we'll have to tell the Calvin Cannon that he's got to. That's right. Do I have a motion for that, that does come up with the hotel? Yeah, I have a motion?
He is requesting $5,000.
How much did we get him last year?
2,500. Mhm. You need to change it. This will be the time.
This is a 2-day event.
Yes, ma'am, it is a 2-day event.
2 days.
And with that, it does meet the requirements of your, policy that you made, which is the local grant event can receive anywhere from 25 to 5,000 with regional and state promotions, since it has all those other
Was
states.
it a 2-day event last year?
I believe it was, yeah.
All right, I'll need a motion for the grant, and if you need to change the number, I need that in your motion. If you want to change that number from 5,000 to whatever.
Well, I'd ask that your motion include the dollar figure, because I didn't put it in the business motion
Okay,
to allow y'all to decide.
I make a motion, we give $3,000.
okay. We got a motion of 3,000. Do I have a second to that motion?
I second.
All right, wait, Mr. Hale, second that, Mr. Fieldhouse motion. All right, any more discussion on that? Chili in July. Hot, isn't it? It's hot, isn't it? I think it's a well attended event. Okay, no more discussion on that. Let's have a roll call.
Councilmember Turnbow.
Yes.
Councilmember Feldhouse.
Yes.
Councilmember Ewing.
Yes.
Councilmember Hale.
Yes.
Councilmember Christie.
Yes.
Councilmember Isaacs.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, folks, for that discussion. Thank you for the change. All right, B, consideration of a motion to approve $50,000 in additional attorney's fees for the representation in the local option sales tax issue for fiscal year 2024.
So moved.
All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. All right, any discussion? All right, let's have a roll call, please.
Councilmember Christie.
Yes.
Councilmember Isaacs.
Yes.
Councilmember Turnbow.
Yes.
Councilmember Feldhouse.
Yes.
Councilmember Ewing.
Yes.
Councilmember Hale.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. And C is we amended our agenda tonight to add C, and this is our city manager, Scott Collins, has got a statement for us about.
Thank you, Mayor. A copy was shared with the mayor and city council of a letter that went to the state fire marshal dated on May 24th, 2024. This letter was sent out of concerns as we became closer to the certificate of occupancy process. There were some concerns about some plans that appeared to have been changed, including 300,000 gallon tank down to 100,000 gallon tank at what at the time was called Project Cardinal. We all now know it as Dexon Electric. And no stamped or engineered plans had been received for fire suppression or sprinkler system and a few other issues, including water supply. So this letter was sent On May 25th, yesterday, let me double check. No, excuse me, I misspoke. On Monday, June 10th, we received a response from the state fire marshal's office. And the response says we have completed review of the chemicals and their quantities and have determined that this is not an occupancy that is required to be submitted according to the rules of the state fire marshal's office. However, we can accommodate the city's request for our office to review based on the numerous changes in the life safety and other issues in fire suppression. They go on to say the plan review fee will need to be paid prior to us issuing a review. And the fee is estimated to be anywhere from 50, could be up to 65,000. We don't know that exact fee, but we did want to bring this to the attention of the city council and of course the mayor and get your guidance moving forward on how you want us to proceed.
They want us to pay the money? Or Ducks in it?
The state doesn't care who pays it.
Yeah, but I don't see us, they're the ones just got it screwed up.
Madam Treasurer, what pot does that come out of?
I don't know, I've just, I haven't thought about it.
So if we don't pay it, they're just gonna let it slide, let everything slide.
Well, of course, our professional staff will continue to follow the process and the checklist for the certificate of occupancy. But due to the magnitude of this project, it'd be more comfortable to have the state fire marshal involved.
Tell Ducks had to pay it.
Well, sir,
They don't,
that was considered, however, on February 10th, 2022, the city council approved that the mayor and city council waiving of all development review fees, application submittal fees, building permit fees, and other fees that city ordinances require for the design, building, and development of Project Cardinal. That is a standing resolution.
that was a smoke screen. Project Cardinal was a smoke screen the whole time. He didn't want nobody to know he's getting chemical back. I just,
Does that, what you just read, does that mean we agreed to step away from any additional fees? So, well, okay, so that's our end of the bargain, so we don't have to do that.
No, that was for Project Cardinal, not to be charged any fees. The state fire marshal's position is if the city council wants to review, the fee must be paid.
I thought when that was waived, that was our fees, city
It is.
fees.
That's
This,
what I thought.
what about state review fees?
I was about to read this again.
Yeah.
Right. It says, waive all development review fees, application submittal fees, building permit fees, and any other fees that city ordinances require for the design, building, and development of Project
So
Cardinal.
that's city.
So of course, we can't waive a state fee. If the state had said, you've got to do this, we can't waive a state. Well, we could pay for it, but we can't
That's
waive
fine.
them. But this is waiving of city fees.
So
And
it's
that's
not, go ahead.
Go ahead.
So it's not the state review fee that we waived, correct?
Yes, we can't waive that. If
So
the state
we could
had
ask them to
required,
pay that.
if the state had required their state review, they would have had to pay it.
I thought we already had a third party person working with the fire marshal because it was above our expertise already, and that Duxon had already paid them on our behalf for the fire department. Have they not?
There's one. I think there's more than one.
So we would just add this one to the list if if it's required.
Well, technically, it wasn't Descon then, it was Project Cardinal. So.
Send the bill to partnership.
They
were gonna employ 200
local people too. You know.
Partnership
we need
got
to,
sent to it.
Project Cardinal should be asking, not this guy.
And Chief, I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but I respect you. Is this a chemical plant or a battery plant? Because everybody in the city of Shelbyville is asking.
It is a plant that produces, stores, mixes, and produces the solutions to go into other facilities that are manufacturing batteries and EV products. There's no, it's chemicals, it's dealing with chemicals.
So you're saying that they'll actually be mixed on location and then shipped?
They're blending them.
Well, let me ask the question, Chief, how concerned are you that we have this from the state?
Sir? I'm sorry.
The $60,000 that they're requiring, that if we have the review, how concerned are you that we need to do that?
I believe it's imperative that we do it. And talking, and the city attorney was in the room with me, we called to get clarification exactly what that letter meant. And the state, the preliminary review they have, even though it didn't meet their standing threshold for what the state would require to do, they thought we had very significant issues and concerns, and they would make Ginger, can you help me with the term? An exemplary exception?
What I understood the director of codes enforcement at the state fire marshal's office to say was that they found this to be a special circumstance, that they would, at the request of the city of Shelbyville, they would undertake this review. This is something they do not normally do because it's not an H1 or an H2 facility. An H1 facility is explosives. An H2 facility is flammable liquids. Now, how they determine that, I really don't know. They say that the chemical list upon their review, and I believe that this gentleman had done that review, comes in as an H3 and H4, and they don't normally do factories. They just don't. It would have to go up to an H1 or H2 before they would normally require the state review the process. And this would be a review. Basically, they would take it over. So they would even do the inspections. It's not just what's called a desktop review. But he made that clear that they thought that there were significant things about this situation, that they would do it upon request of the city, but that it's not state required.
So again, what happens if we don't?
And move ahead.
We will rely on the third party reviewer and inspector. And
Brian here.
make the determination for the certificate of occupancy based on their inspections and review.
So
And
it could pass. It could be just fine, couldn't it?
Either way,
It would just prolong everything, I guess, if it were.
Here's what I understand from members of your staff, is that one of the third party reviewers that your codes inspector, Mr. Stevens, has been primarily for the building, the shell of the building and some things that go in there. I believe, am I correct, Fire Chief, that there will be a different reviewer for fire suppression systems? Is that correct?
They're leaving it to the subcontractor, from what I understand. Their in-house fire engineer, fire safety engineer, to tell them what complies and what doesn't. We ran into a similar issue, and I'm not trying to speak for the codes department, where some of the mechanical work or some of the inner workings of different parts of the plant, is when they go to making their connections internally, with their various devices that they have been self-reviewing and signing off on a self-review that Brian has sent back to them after this has been going on and saying, no, you're gonna have to get a third party to review. With, like I said, with the fire safety systems, we rely heavily on, when we talk about city staff, that includes, John Freeman, the city engineer at the power company, because he does all sprinkler systems. And thus, we're in the letter that we sent, we had concerns, things were being installed and wanting to be checked off on that are not stamped by an engineer, by a fire safety engineer. So there in itself lies a different, or an issue of who they're hiring to check off when they're checking off things that should be up front, that you wouldn't do.
I was actually in the meeting with Brian, in the discussions for the components of it as well. And what was stated by Duxon's representatives was that they had proprietary equipment and that their engineer could determine whether or not it was met their standards and met our standards, essentially.
Isn't there a simple remedy to have the city of Shelbyville's people there, not you mentioned self-check. That means their people, their fire people to check off. We have to double check that. It has to be.
It's my understanding from Brian Stevens today that he sent all those self-reports back. He also said there were not many of them, but he has sent them back and said, no, your third-party reviewer will have to do that. So I understand Brian is waiting on that. Now, what I don't understand is the relation between what that person and that company's doing, how that ties in with your fire suppression system. Wish Brian was here so that we could ask him specifically who that is that might be reporting on that.
This could be a terrible disaster. And they're trying to dump it in the lap of the city, and it all started right up there on the square in the white building on the second floor. Send them the bill. I mean, they need to be held responsible. Project Cardinal, watch it that, where the way say we're having a chemical factory. That's all that was. It was a smoke show. And he got it done. I give him credit. But folks, if something bad happens, you got the hospital, Walmart's fixing to double in size. Double, 1.something million square feet. You're going to have that TCAT school there. How many kids are going to be in there going to school? We can't let them open that thing. I mean, I don't be no part of it. I mean, this is the city of Shelby. It's going to fall right here in this building. And I mean, that, where the council signed off before me, I don't know how that came to be. But this ain't right. Ain't nothing right about this.
At this point in time, the city is faced with making certain that its normal safety and building codes, mechanical, plumbing, fire, that it's all taken care of. And so, as you understand, the fire department, along with it, as their job as the fire marshal, they're having to do that for this large of a project, which is not something that normally comes through here. They have concerns, and they have heard back from the state fire marshal's office that they understand why they have concerns. And though they can't take it on as a required state review, because it doesn't meet H1 or H2, that as a courtesy to the city of Shelbyville, they would do this review. And that means, and they clarified, that means they will take on anything if it doesn't meet the standards that they think it should be under their code. They would do stop work orders. They'll work through all of that. They'll do the inspections, they'll take it on.
And may I add, we've had several meetings with Duxon officials the past couple of weeks. And they have voiced their commitment to safety and success as much as the city has. So if the fee is a concern, we can certainly, staff can be directed to approach Duxon and tell them, we feel like this is a necessity and we appreciate you putting the bill on this.
Yeah, or you're not gonna get a certificate of occupancy.
Scott, I think it's also good to tell council that they brought in a couple of the people that were originally on the project that then went off to do other things. And so I think they recognized that they were having some issues with construction, and they brought those people back. One of those gentlemen's here, he's here for 2 weeks, Mr. Naum is. And then Munil is, I think, here for the duration. And they have been, they've been good to work with.
So you're asking us, this is on the agenda, you added the C item here.
Yeah.
What are we doing with this? Tonight?
Giving staff direction.
Oh,
So the bottom line is the city gonna put up $65,000 to make sure that the state comes and does a thorough review of duck stamps, is that correct?
Up to, yes. Or, well, we don't know the exact figure because I think it'll be lower. than
And-
that.
Chief, you've been involved in this more than anybody, you think that we need to do this?
Yes.
See, we build the ducks. They don't pay,
Yeah, I think-
they get up there on the square. It's that county building up there, so, drop it in the partnership flat. Let's look at it.
Personally, I think from position of mayor, yes, the state should take care of it. I think that's the way it should be handled. Dollar and cent wise, I do not like that the city, I thought that their original language that I read, that if there were any changes in the plans, that the letter from the state said if there were any changes in the plans, then they would do an inspection.
It was a could
Right.
there,
could.
a could.
Could.
And so if I'll speak to that, and Chief, if I say something wrong, the state fire marshal's, the code enforcement director, emphasized that what they look for is the occupancy of the building. And so that is classified, and in this case, they don't normally do factories. That's just not what they do. In this case, if it was an H1 or an H2 occupancy, that is what triggers a state review. That is explosives and flammable liquids, H1 and H2. They reviewed it again and said it doesn't meet that occupancy. So that's what would trigger, what they meant by if the plans change is if they're bringing in a different type of a chemical that brings it to an H or substance, bringing it to H1 or H2. That's how I understood Mr. Cameron. He explained it to us. So it's not about, it was, the letter could be interpreted that way, but it's
Right.
not about if they change a door here, whatever. That's not what they meant by that. It was about the occupancy.
But what I was thinking about is that 300,000 gallon versus 100,000 gallon tank, all those kind of things like that. That's different than a double change.
Well, yes, but that's not the way Mr. Cameron
Yes.
explained it
Right.
to us.
Scott, you
So-
got anything? All right, I guess my recommendation would be, from a personal standpoint, as your mayor, I would say, yes, we want the state fire marshal to sign off on everything, make sure that they do this, and all of our folks make sure that they do that. The money wise, I would recommend we go to Duxon. If you want to operate, get this plant operating, you're gonna have to provide the money. If we don't have that state inspection, we can't give you a certificate of occupancy.
Amen. I second that.
Will that fly?
I don't know. if it
Will that
would
fly?
Well, that does that necessarily mean that they can't open
So, I cannot open without a certificate of occupancy.
Right, but that was,
As far as
does the
genders.
local, is that us that will issue that?
Ultimately, if, with the fire marshal, they would, I can't remember the
Project completion is what they will
project
issue.
completion letter, and at that point, then we as
Would
staff
issue the certificate of occupancy.
would issue a certificate of occupancy.
So we have to provide, if they say give it to them, we have to give it to them regardless, the certificate of occupancy.
Please understand, all they are looking at is fire suppression systems.
And
There'll be
Plumbing
other
and mechanical.
that
Yeah.
deal with fire suppression systems. So there's other things that Brian has to have from the third party reviewer
Right.
that get this, the
Cities.
I can't, the certificate of occupancy. But if they check all those boxes, yes, they'll get their certificate of occupancy. That is one component, is what I guess I should have said earlier. It's one component.
Look, Jason was talking about the other day in the safety meeting, where that the potential with what's out there could call for a 1 mile evacuation if there's a fire.
We know,
Half a mile.
we know half a mile,
Yeah.
but there are still questions with that.
Yeah.
What we're having to do now is take for the individual chemicals, they've said it's gonna be, there are substances, they're not all chemicals. And we have to take them in with, DOT guidelines and all our existing individually, and have to treat them individually, even some might be a third, half or a half mile. But what we don't know, and what Duxon has assured us that they're gonna work with as we bring up our safety plan, or as we go forward building that, is what the synergistic effect is when they mix 11 of those chemicals that have half mile and a third mile together, does that still equal half mile? And so those are, and a lot of it too, when you're talking about what the state automatically calls the H1 and H2, this is also really new stuff. And my chemical specialists or hazmat specialists have had a hard time actually finding some of these substances. And a lot of them are, like, we've heard the whole process, proprietary information, that they might not be able to share because of economic, ramifications.
So is this really kind of a last snag of what's going on really out there, or can we get a list of all of the real big problems that
But
are there more?
My issues as far as life safety were sent to the fire marshal in the letter that y'all got. As far as my staff and Mr. Freeman, we're just now being able to get involved in this. Because of, at that point that we normally would do, because, early on wasn't exactly a standard procedure, and so now that we're here, we're not picking on anybody, we're not doing it. When we have legitimate concerns, I don't care who it is, this is the first time that we've been able to actually have an input in it. So that's why it's now, it's because they called for a meeting, wanting to know what they needed to do to release certain contractors and what they're going to need to do going forward to get a certificate of occupancy. And that's why we're at this point.
Is this third-party reviewer helping you with this process of what the chemicals will do?
The third-party reviewer, to my knowledge, sir, we have not had the independent third-party reviewer on the fire suppression system. That they have complied with that through, you help me out, through the construction part of the building. And they said, the Coast Department tell you that they built a good building, that everything's been, as far as construction, it's been above par. It's when we got, now that main contractor is phasing out, and subcontractors and different specialists are all coming in, working on different projects. That's where it's got a lot of gray area.
And that's where the stop work order came in? Did that not draw a red flag?
That was
Brian.
That was Brian.
Well, that was for a tank. Yeah, it wasn't anything to do with the building permit issue for Turner to go in and do the main building. It was another portion of the project that they had not got a building permit for, but they've since done that.
The letter that Scott shared with us, and I was just reading over the language, the letter that Scott shared with me is to Chief Wade. And, it says that they're reviewed chemicals and their quantities and determined that this is not an occupancy that is required to be submitted according to the rules of the state fire marshal's office. However, we can accommodate the city's request for our office to review. I would recommend that we, as the city council, and I would as mayor, make that request for the state to sign off on this. I would also, in that request, ask for Duxon to pay for that review. And that's my opinion. If somebody wants to bring a motion, or if we want to defer this, do we get it cleared up, or what do we need to do?
I have another question.
All right.
This project started with the city and county together sharing all expense. Would this still be part of that shared expense at this point? And if so, the county, we'd have to ask them if we could not get the money any other way, then I think the county should be, as part of our original agreement, should pay for half of it. And because the chief feels it's so important that we have a state inspection, and I'm sure the city needs to cover ourselves as much as possible in the event of something. And I would sure like a letter signed off on state level. So I make a motion that we do retain the state fire marshal, try every avenue to get other people to pay or share the expense of it, but that we do it.
Yes, we gotta do it. We don't have any choice.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
So you're saying Duxon to pay, and you're saying go to the county?
No, I'm saying try everybody. Apparently, I don't care who, I mean, but the city and county were in a 50-50 to start with, and it's not completed yet. Yes, I would say Duck Sand first by all means, but in the event they won't, then I say the city and county, but as last resort, because chief is so adamant that he feels this is very, very necessary to do, that whatever the end result, that we have that state fire marshal, and we have a report signed off by them.
Yeah,
To
we
cover
want-
the city
we
a
want
little
that.
bit.
We
I mean,
definitely
won't
want
cover us
that.
completely, but it will help a little bit.
We definitely want that.
That would be my plea.
And some of us were not a member of the government at the time of 2022 when they said that I guess the inspections and things like that would not be billed to Duxon on that. But this is part of the inspection, but I think the state, I'm with you, William. I think the state needs to sign off on this. Do you agree, Chief?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And if I may say, and I'm sorry if I'm speaking out of line, but what I would recommend to y'all is that tonight we agree to do it and get the process, because it's not only better for us, it's also better for Duxon.
Okay.
The farther we go, the more difficult changes that they might not be aware of, that that gives them, time's money for them as well. So just looking at them like I would any other business, it would behoove everybody to move the ball forward. And then if we have to figure out, even if that's getting, if we get the coffers, we ask them to kind of help us fill them back up.
Right.
But we go ahead and get the ball moving for everybody's.
I agree with you. I agree that the state has to do this. So
So what do we need to do?
We have a motion on the floor.
Okay.
I'll second, okay, go ahead. I'll second your motion with the understanding that we are asking Duxon first for the money. And if they do not pay it, and we have to pay it, then we turn around and ask county for half of it for our 231 original agreement.
Yes,
Okay.
exactly.
Okay, can I clarify?
All right, go ahead.
Okay, I'm gonna take a little bit of what everybody said, and I'm gonna put it together, and you tell me if I got it right.
We gotta get this right, folks. That's the reason we discussed it.
Okay,
We'll
look
get
at the
this right.
I was just gonna say, are we gonna vote to front it
What my motion's
Yes.
gonna be.
Yes.
So my restatement of Councilmember Christie's motion is that we proceed with requesting that State Fire Marshal's Office review the plans of Duxon. And we will go ahead and pay the money up front, but we will come back and request first from Duxon to reimburse us for the cost. And if we don't get anything from Duxon, we'll go to the county and request that the county pay half based on our 231 agreement
Yes,
for
ma'am.
shared expenses.
Exactly.
I get right?
That's clear?
I get eight.
Yes, you did.
Okay, so we have a first from Mr. Christie and a second from Mr. Feldhouse.
All right.
And
Part of my discussion, who makes that request? You or the fire chief, or who's gonna make that request? Work together. We work together, okay.
Let me
Just wanna
say
make
this.
sure that's done, okay?
We've got like $80,000 in that 231
Okay.
account.
Okay.
Now, the majority of that's ours, but it won't matter. Do y'all want to front it with that money, or you rather use?
Absolutely.
I don't think you can do, Kay, I don't think you can do that.
What?
That money is 231, you'd have to have a vote of the 231
31 North
committee.
Board.
No, it's been closed out and they funded, and the city
Are you
funded
saying
it.
that is money of the 231?
That's what's left over.
committee?
It's not two thirty-one.
We put up.
Yeah, we will.
231, all we like paying out of that money is the last Bobo bill. And then the rest of it was gonna come back to the city because we put the 100,000
Okay.
in.
Yeah.
But if you think it's safer, we can pay it out of the general fund, whatever.
And we just need to get it done.
It doesn't matter, whatever y'all
Need to get it
decide.
done.
I would prefer.
Just
to
do
be
one
general
designated
fund.
fund balance. Okay.
Yeah, okay.
General fund.
That's a good idea, Kay.
We'll pay it out of professional services in
The
41,990.
only thing with that being a separate.
It's a
agreement,
separate account.
separate
Don't do that.
account
Yeah.
For that 231 board.
So what happens to the 231 board money?
She comes back.
Back to the city.
Goes back to
We'll
the
get
city.
it back to the.
After we pay our final legal fees, yes,
We'll get it back to the general fund.
we will.
Okay. All right, everybody clear on what we're doing? We're trying to do the right thing here.
Yeah.
Okay, we've got a motion and we've got a second. Motion by Mr. Christie, a second by Mr. Feldhouse. Any other discussion on this before we vote on it? All right, let's have a roll call vote.
Councilmember Sherbo.
Yes.
Councilmember Feldhouse.
Yes.
Councilmember Ewing.
Yes.
Councilmember Hale.
Yes.
Councilmember Christie.
Yes.
Councilmember Isaacs.
Yes.
All right, thank you very
All
much.
right, thank you. Appreciate all the discussion. It need to be brought out. Okay, don't have any appointments tonight, but we do have some announcements. City Hall will be closed on Wednesday, June the 19th, in observation of the Juneteenth holiday. We're having a parade and all that Saturday, by the way. And, Wednesday's trash will be picked up on Tuesday, June the 18th, with the Tuesday's regular route. City Hall will also be closed on Thursday, July the 4th, in observation of Independence Day. Thursday's trash will be picked up on Wednesday, July the 3rd, with Wednesday's regular. Okay, do we have any other announcements that we need to make before we close the meeting? Do I have a motion to adjourn? Do I have a second? All in favor, say aye. Adjourn.